Welcome back, everyone. As we start to talk about our next terrifying Bible verse, I want to start, if I can, by telling you a little story that's related to this. You know, several years ago when my wife and I and our three kids, much younger at the time, lived out in California, and we lived in a little neighborhood that was a couple miles from an intersection, a merging of two interstate highways. And so naturally, with two big highways coming together, there were gas stations and restaurants and several services right there at that corner. And so it was common that we would jump in the car and drive up there and stop and get lunch or whatever, and then get back in the car and get back on the road to go up to town or the ball game or wherever we were going. And so one Saturday we had done that, and we'd got back in the car, and as I was getting back on the freeway, a car comes zipping over and comes in front of me and makes me hit my brakes pretty hard. And I hear this little voice out of the back seat say, "You idiot." I didn't have to look. I could feel the look from the passenger seat, and I glanced, and sure enough, my wife was giving me the look. And, you know, I guess a child in the back seat could have said something worse than that, but is that really what I want to be teaching my children, to say things like that about people because of something trivial as a car pulling in front of me? And, you know, I wasn't proud of that, and it kind of struck me, the kids are paying attention. And now I'm a grandfather, and that little voice from the back seat is now a grown man and married and has two kids and a third on the way. And now I listen to him every now and then tell a story about something he's done and something one of his kids say, and how he gets the look from his wife. So we move on, and we realize that kids are pretty observant and learn all the time. You know, Jesus talks about children in Matthew 18. I want to read verses 1 through 5 if I can. It says, "At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and said, 'Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?' And he called a child to himself and set him before them and said, 'Truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become like children, you will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Whoever then humbles himself as this child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever receives one such child in my name receives me.'" This is really quite a beautiful thought that Jesus shares here, how he expresses how we need to become like children. And what he says next is one of those verses that actually starts to terrify me. So let's read verse 6. After Jesus expresses the need to come like children, he says, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Do you know what a millstone is? A millstone is not a brick. It's not a concrete block. It's not a 5-gallon bucket of concrete. A millstone is a huge stone used for grinding wheat or other grains or corn. Small ones weigh a few hundred pounds. Large ones weigh several thousand pounds. And you'll note here, Jesus says, better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck. Jesus is talking through this and describing one of the heavy millstones around his neck. Well, let's think through this. Little children learn, and they observe, and they pay attention to the things that we as adults are saying. And they pay attention to how we spend our time and what we spend our money on. And they pay attention to the jokes that we tell and the movies we watch. They pay attention to how we talk about the opposite sex and how we talk about marriage and about our spouse. And they pay attention to whether or not we gossip about our fellow churchgoers. And they pay attention to if the baseball game's more important than getting together with our fellow Christians. And they pay attention to whether the way we act on Sunday morning is the way we act the rest of the week. Do I need to go on? They learn, they absorb things, and they learn what they see from us every day, every minute of every day. We've just scratched the surface with what we've said. So when we think about children and how they observe and how they learn from us, from what we do and what we say, and then we turn to Matthew 18, verse 6, and Jesus says, "But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Maybe that's not terrifying to you, but it sure is to me. I think, is it possible that I've caused one of my children to stumble because of the things I've said or done? That little voice from the back seat makes it clear that they're paying attention. And it's not only my own children, but all the dozens, hundreds of children that I've interacted with at the ball game, at church, at wherever. Have I caused one of those to stumble? Because if I have, Jesus says, it's better that I have a several thousand-pound millstone strung around my neck and dropped into the depths of the sea. Jesus is serious about that. And we should be serious about the kinds of words and the things we do around the little children. Jesus' words are serious. Serious enough that when I stop and I think about them, honestly, they terrify me. Thinking about what I've done or said that might have caused someone to stumble. I think we all need to think about these words. I think we need to take a good, hard look in the mirror and ask ourselves, how are we doing? Let me leave that with you for your consideration in your life. In the next video, we're going to talk about another verse that terrifies me because it sets a standard that I worry I am not able to live up to. We'll talk about that verse in the next video. I hope you'll join us.